is Cadence, and I work the closing shift at a small dive bar in a quiet part of town. The bar sits just off the highway, but there's also a back entrance that locals use. It's nothing fancy, just a dimly lit spot where regulars know each other by name, and the jukebox has been playing the same classic rock songs for years. Most of our customers are locals, truckers passing through, and the occasional lost tourist looking for a strong drink. I actually enjoy it. The routine is predictable, the tips are better than you'd expect, and over time, I've learned how to handle all kinds of bar patrons, the talkers, the flirters, the quiet drinkers, and the ones who just want to be left alone. Weekends can get chaotic, but during the week, I work my shifts alone. No bar back, no co-workers stopping by. It's an easier workload, sure, but I do miss having company. I stay alert though. Bar fights aren't unheard of, given the crowd we attract. That's why I noticed the man right away. It was sometime after 1 a.m. on a Tuesday when he walked in. If I had to guess, he was in his late 40s, but he was strikingly well-groomed. Not the usual look for a guy his age in a place like this. He wore a black turtleneck under a long black trench coat, dressed well, but without trying too hard. Something about him gave off an air of quiet wealth, the kind that doesn't need to be flashy. He scanned the room before walking directly to the bar and taking a seat. I also remember his posture. It was unusually upright, but that's neither here nor there. When I approached, he glanced at the liquor behind me and immediately ordered something top shelf, no hesitation. As I poured, he asked if I liked working there, flashing a friendly smile. It was a normal enough question, so I answered honestly. I told him I did and smiled back. I even made a small joke about bartending. I wish I could say something felt off about him, but that wasn't the case. He came across as completely normal, like the kind of dad who cheers for the whole team at his kid's baseball game. We chatted for a bit. The bar was quiet, so I didn't mind. Eventually, he asked if I'd ever considered doing something bigger. It was a strange question, but not necessarily creepy. I gave him my usual bartender smile and told him I was happy where I was. He nodded and sipped his drink, seeming almost disappointed with my response, though I couldn't figure out why. Then, out of nowhere, he asked what time I got off. That threw me. He hadn't given off any flirty vibes, so I was annoyed to realize our conversation had been another meaningless attempt at getting my number. I smiled, gave a vague answer, and quickly busied myself wiping down the counter. He didn't push, though. He just smiled like he already knew, then finished his drink and placed a crisp $100 bill on the bar like it was nothing. Without another word, he walked out into the night. I wasn't sure what to make of the encounter. He had been polite, but there was something about him that stuck with me. I figured I'd never see him again. I was wrong. About a week later, he returned, but this time he wasn't alone. A woman was with him, and she immediately caught my attention. I had never seen her before. She looked like she was in her mid-30s and was dressed a little off. Her outfit was trendy, but it felt forced, like someone trying too hard to blend in with a younger crowd. I watched her closely as they approached the bar. Everything about her seemed calculated, the way she smiled a little too easily, the way she leaned against the counter like we were already friends. As I set napkins in front of them, the first thing she said wasn't a hello or a drink order, but a compliment. "You're so pretty," she said, her fingers lightly brushing my arm, lingering just a second too long. I laughed and thanked her, but something about her felt off. The man strangely said nothing. That struck me as odd, considering how talkative he had been before. They ordered drinks, and as I poured them, the question started. The woman asked how long I'd worked there, how old I was, and other small talk that didn't feel like small talk at all. She was studying me. At one point, she glanced at the man, and it felt like they were communicating without speaking. Then she leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. She told me she ran an exclusive event club and was always looking for young, fun people for private parties. She said I could make a fortune, $10,000 for a single weekend. I forced a small laugh and said it sounded too good to be true. She assured me it was real, insisting that plenty of girls like me worked for them. Her smile never wavered, and that's what unsettled me the most. She kept circling back to the same words: fun, safe, exclusive. Then, almost too casually, she said, "You should step outside for a second. There's someone who can explain it better." My heart started racing. I wasn't playing along anymore. "I'm good," I said firmly, no smile this time. Just then, a group of customers walked in, laughing loudly. The woman's face changed instantly. Her friendly mask slipped, just for a second. Then she turned to the man beside her, and without another word, they left. I told my boss and co-workers about the encounter, and we all agreed to keep an eye out. My boss reassured me he was only 15 minutes away if I ever needed him, and the security cameras usually deterred trouble, but it wasn't over. A few nights later, after closing, I saw a car. It was parked across the street, engine off, watching. I told myself it was nothing, but as I walked to my car, a creeping feeling spread through me like static. I kept my head down, gripping my keys tightly. When I pulled out of the lot, I checked my mirrors. The car followed. At first, I thought it was coincidence, but every turn I made, it was still there. My pulse pounded. I knew it was them. Thinking fast, I turned into a police station parking lot, gripping the wheels so tightly my knuckles turned white. The second I pulled in, the car sped away. That wasn't the end. A few nights later, I was closing the bar alone when the door creaked open. It was the woman. I texted my boss as inconspicuously as possible. When I looked up, she was staring at me, that same artificial smile on her face. Slowly, she walked to the bar and sat down. "I thought I'd come check on you," she said sweetly. I told her we were closing. She pouted and asked for just one drink. I debated refusing, but decided stalling her might buy time for my boss to arrive. As I poured, I heard it, the front door clicking shut. I spun around. She was gone. Through the glass, I saw a black van idling outside, then metal rattling. Someone was at the back door, trying to get in. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could, a metal shaker, and dialed 911. My mind raced. Should I run? But before I could act, headlights swept across the parking lot. My boss. The sound at the back door stopped. The van peeled out of the lot. When the police arrived, we reviewed the security footage. It was worse than I had imagined. Before the woman had left, the cameras had caught two masked figures crouching by the front door. Another was trying to break in from the back. They were waiting for me. The plate number on the van was unregistered. It's been a while since it happened, but I still get chills working night shifts. I keep asking myself, how did they know I'd be alone? And worse, what would have happened if I had stepped outside? I used to do the night shift at a small gas station, one of those SLC convenience stores off a quiet highway. I say used to because after what happened a few months ago, there's no way I'm ever working nights again. It was a tiny station, barely any business once it got late. Most nights I'd just restock the shelves, clean the counters, and occasionally ring up a passing driver or long-haul trucker. I remember this one night like it just happened. It was around 2:30 in the morning. Even the truck traffic had died down, and I had nothing left to do. I was aimlessly scrolling through my phone, just trying to kill time. At some point, I stepped outside for a breath of cold air, rubbing my hands together to stay warm and watching my breath fog in front of me. The parking lot was completely empty, just the gas pumps, the road, and a thick line of trees beyond. The neon sign above flickered weakly, and I remember the air being damp, like you could see the moisture just hanging there. Even though the highway wasn't far off, it was strangely quiet. Just as I turned to head back inside, something caught my eye. I turned my head and saw someone standing behind one of the pumps. I hadn't noticed anyone earlier. He had on a dark red hoodie with the hood up, hands stuffed in his pockets. No vehicle around, definitely not getting gas. But he wasn't walking toward the store either. He just stood there, sort of turned toward me like he was watching. At first, I assumed he was waiting for someone, but something about how he moved felt off. He kept shifting around in this weird, slow circle. I went back into the store, but kept an eye on him through the glass, pretending not to watch. I hoped someone might drive up soon and maybe take him away. But after a few minutes, he started walking toward the entrance, slowly at first, then suddenly shoving the door open like he'd made a snap decision. He came up to the counter and didn't speak right away, just stared at me like he was trying to read me. Then, in a low, kind of rehearsed tone, he muttered that his car had broken down just before the station, said he needed a jump or maybe just some gas to make it to the next town. I couldn't believe it. His story wasn't even remotely convincing, like he wasn't even trying to make it believable. I offered to call a tow truck. He immediately shook his head. No, he said quickly. He just needed a flashlight, maybe someone to help check under the hood. Everything about him felt off, the way he spoke, the way he watched my face for a reaction. It felt like he was testing me. But honestly, it's not uncommon to get strange people at that hour, and I started to wonder if maybe he was just high or socially awkward. I asked where his car was, and he pointed toward the highway entrance. I didn't believe him until he motioned toward the security monitor behind me. I turned to check the screen, and, sure enough, there was a car out there. And that's when it hit me. I had just been outside. I would have noticed a car parked there. I glanced back at the monitor and caught a flicker of movement near the rear bumper. Someone was crouching just out of sight. My stomach dropped. I forced a smile and told the guy I'd grab my phone from the office before helping him. I turned slowly, trying not to show fear, but as soon as I was out of his line of sight, I slammed the emergency panic button under the counter. The alarm shrieked through the store immediately. I expected him to panic, maybe even lash out, but instead, he completely changed. That nervous energy vanished, no more fidgeting. He actually relaxed. Then he smiled, not like someone caught in a lie. It was slow, confident, like he was in control, like he was enjoying it. I stood frozen. Before I could do anything else, he turned and sprinted out. I rushed to the monitor in time to see two figures running off, not toward the car, but into the woods behind the gas station. The car remained, engine cold, lights off, completely empty. By the time the police arrived, it was exactly how I saw it. The car still there, no sign of the men, no footprints, no evidence of anyone leaving on foot. Then one of the officers noticed something I hadn't. The front passenger door was wide open. Someone else had been inside the whole time. I gave them my full statement and handed over the footage. A few days later, they followed up. The car had been reported stolen over a week earlier, from more than 100 miles away. No one claimed it. No missing persons. No crimes connected to it. Just an abandoned car and 3 people who vanished without a trace. That was months ago, and I still think about it. I don't know why gas stations seem to attract this kind of thing. But one thing's for sure, I'll never work another night shift again.